Where does Arizona basketball stand with Cam Holmes, especially with the Elijah Williams decision coming down the pike, and another player that you definitely need to know about?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke, Locked On your team every day. This episode is brought to you today by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, Arizona basketball, obviously, what is going on with the Wildcats at this point? Now, Elijah Williams has decided he will go elsewhere. We're going to talk Cam Holmes. We're going to talk one-and-done possibilities. We are going to talk about a smorgasbord of different options, but the first one we need to talk about is Elijah Williams. Elijah Williams, Monty Williams' kid, a top priority for the University of Arizona. He has decided that he is going to go off to Baylor. Now, I think with Baylor and with Cam Holmes, or excuse me, Elijah Williams, it just kind of is what it is. Arizona, I thought, did a good job with him, and I think they were surprised by the timing, but there was also a heavy religious component here, and Elijah Williams, father Monty Williams, very religious guy, wanted his kid to go to Baylor. And I guess it makes sense. Also, they can pay a lot. They can pay a lot of money. So let's. That's the first thing that you need to look at is. That was that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that this wasn't a blow for the University of Arizona. It was a blow for the University of Arizona. There is no doubt about that, because this is a team, this is a program that I think was really banking on being able to get him, and they couldn't get him. So that obviously that's a loss. But Arizona has done a very, very good job of being able to get other players, and being able to prioritize other players, and I think that's something that we obviously need to talk about. Now, Cam Holmes is at the very, very top of that list. Cam Holmes, for everybody out there that doesn't know, this guy is a 6'5" wing out of Millennium. He's a great player. He is a difference maker. He is you look at players that project out as a possible one and done. That is Cam Holmes. He is, like I said, he's very, very good. You look at him and you're like, okay, what can't he do? Now, you might say, well, Mike, he's not a top 5 player in the country, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, that's fair. He's not a top 5 player in the country, but he's also somebody that is a top 15 player in the country. He's also a guy, too, that he's also a guy as well that can do a little bit of everything. You watch him and you just kind of know that his best basketball is ahead of him. Plus, he plays winning basketball. That's the other thing that you want. He plays winning basketball. He's not a guy that is looking to get 500 shots per game. He's not a guy that is going to be a high maintenance player. He's not going to be really any of that, and I think that's kind of what's exciting about that, is that he's not going to really need that. Now, and he's kind of that conduit in a weird way. He's kind of that player. He's kind of that guy that can do, like I said, he can do a little bit of everything. You watch him; he's a lefty. Obviously, that helps. He's also a player that when you see him play, he can make that pass. He can make that secondary pass. He can get into the lane. He can do just a lot of different things that lead to winning basketball plays. And that's something that, obviously you want from an Arizona. That's something that you want from an Arizona perspective. And Arizona's done a great job with him. And honestly, I would be a little bit surprised if he doesn't come to the U of A. Now, he's going to be tripping to Oregon. I get that. When you trip to Oregon, there's obviously something in there as well that you can look at and say, all right, well, that's going to be a little bit of an issue as well. But overall, though, he has done this is a player that the coaching staff has done a great job with, and I think the coaching staff feels pretty good about where they are as far as monetary demands. Listen, kids like this, their going rate is generally about $1 million, $1.5 million, something like that. And he's somebody that he's somebody that is, at this stage in the game, that's kind of what he goes for. Now, he's like I said, a school like Oregon is always going to be very interesting for him. A school like UCLA is somebody that he's brought up in the past, without being asked. He's also brought up some other schools, but I think that Arizona, like I said, feels pretty good about where he is at this point. So we will see. He also, now, if you're looking at it from a statistical expectation, I think that you see him coming in, and I think that you probably think that he's going to be somebody that's going to be about 12-5-4, something like that. And but he's going to play a productive role. He's going to play a productive role in all of this. Now, the other thing too is, what would it mean to be able to land him? Arizona wants to be able to bring in players that are, how do I put this? Arizona wants to be able to bring in guys that, like I said, can really kind of change the bar a little bit here, I guess is the right term, and that they can, that there is going to be a stranglehold on Phoenix, and not only is there going to be a stranglehold on Phoenix, there is going to be something where that if a kid comes out of Phoenix, he's going to be Arizona, and again, they really did that with. They did a great job of that with Koa Pete. You watch what they've done, and they've done an amazing job with that. And so that's always going to be the breadbasket. That's always going to be where Arizona is going to try to get the. It's where Arizona is going to try to make the most of their money. And you look at it, and it makes a ton of sense. I mean, you look at Koa Pete, obviously. Then the other players that you're offering: Cam Williams, Cam Holmes, Akino Lozzi. Now again, Lozzi not indigenous to the state, but still you get the point. The other guys like that: Darius Wobbington, another class. Bruce Branch. I can keep going. Those are the kind of guys that you are going to be looking for, and something that they've done a very, very nice job of to this point. So, like I said, there's that. I think the thing that's interesting about all of this, though, is what is that next step for Arizona, and what does that look like? And I think that's something. I think that's something that that probably doesn't really need to get. Doesn't really get probably as much attention as it should, but it's something, though. It's kind of a breadbasket type approach that the Wildcats, and that this coaching staff has taken full advantage of, and I think it's something that you need to look at, and I think it's something as well where you're just kind of like, all right, well, you get what they're doing. This wasn't the case back, even when Lute was here. When Lute was here, it was a totally different animal. When Lute was here, this was a spot where Phoenix was going to get a player. When they got a Mike Bibby, it was going to be something that was going to be really, really different. When they got somebody like a Richard Jefferson, that was somebody that was going to be different. I mean, heck, even Channing Frye. Now, Channing Frye, I think, was a little bit of a harbinger of things to come because he was with, obviously, because he was at St. Mary's, and he was on a loaded team where you had the Fontenot boys. Both those guys were absolute monsters. But Frye, I think, was kind of the era where you started to see, all right, this thing is about to take off at some point, and it obviously has. It obviously has at that point. So, but what does Arizona need to do from that perspective then? And I think that's the thing that's going to be very, very interesting to see how that plays out. Now, with Cam Holmes, what would that mean, though? Because I think there's an interesting strategy that goes into all of this. But first, we got to talk about Monarch Money, my friends. Monarch Money. Okay, here's the deal with Monarch Money. All right, so you look at it right now and you're saying to yourself, Mike, what can Monarch Money do for me? All right, Monarch Money can do a lot for you. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Heck, that's the story of my life. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. And again, it does a lot of stuff for you. And the other thing about it, too, that's pretty cool, it gives you surprising insights and all-in-one convenience. You don't have to hopscotch around from five different entities and say, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, all of this different stuff. You don't have to do any of that. And I think that's a part that's also very, very cool about it and what it can provide for you. And again, it's easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track ahead in personal accounts, set goals at the same without all of that. And again, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Monarch Money, my friends. Monarch Money. And again, stop just kind of getting by and start saving some real money. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke, locked on your team every day. All right, now, Cam Holmes, I think, would be another one. If you got Cam Holmes and you got Cam Williams, I think that that would be a situation where you would know at that point that this thing is ready that anybody that's coming out of Phoenix, they're going to have to go through the U of A, and I think that's what would be really exciting about all of this. And like I said, that should be the way it is. I think there was a little bit of a concern, is Arizona going to be able to get all these players? Now listen, there's going to be a massive difference when it comes to some of these guys and what they're actually going to command on the open market. That's something that I think that's something that I think that we need to keep a very, very close eye on. What can they actually command on the open market? I think Arizona's going to be able to be competitive with all of these guys, and I think that's kind of what's exciting about all of this. They're going to be able to be competitive with all these players because Arizona's NIL is better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. Now, can it be better? Can you get more money? Of course, but Arizona can make competitive offers on almost all of these kids, and that's really the thing that kind of matters, is that they can make competitive offers on pretty much all of those guys. And you look at it, you don't get somebody like Koa Pete without somebody like Koa Pete without being able to pay them money. Koa Pete wasn't just going to go to any school for free. Koa Pete was going to take a little bit of money. They got it. Braden Burries as well. That just shows that Arizona can be competitive. It's not ASU where you're kind of like, all right, you're just not going to be able to get whoever you want. Maybe if ASU gets somebody in the future, that could change things a little bit, but I don't see that really changing things at this point. I think that's going to be pretty much the case. I'll be ready in 10 minutes. So sorry about that. So I think with Cam Holmes, I think with Cam Williams, those would be guys that will be able to really kind of make that next step then for the U of A. When I watch Cam Holmes, though, that to me is that Tommy Lloyd type player, and that he can push the secondary break. He can do a lot of different things, and he's physically ready to play. I think with a lot of the guys, you wonder too, are you physically ready to play? Let's use Carter Bryant, for example. With Carter Bryant, that it was going to, he started playing more as the season went on, but Carter, again, is still kind of like a deer in the headlights, a young fawn in the fields, in that he is, like I said, he is not, he just wasn't physically, mature enough and ready to go at that point. And I think that's something that you actually saw. I mean, I'm not really breaking any news. He was going to take a little bit of time, and that's exactly what it was. So Carter, these other guys, though, that Arizona's bringing in are it's a little bit different. And these guys are going to be ready to play. Koa Pete is going to be ready to play, and he's going to be able to play immediately. When it comes to Braden Burries, much the same way. They're going to be able to play, and they're going to be able to play immediately. So I think that's that's a little bit of a difference. Some of these guys were going to take a little bit of time. That will not be the case here, and that will be something that you need to look at. And I think you need to basically come to the realization of that it's going to take a little bit of time for both. But these guys are going to be ready, I think, to be stars a lot sooner than Carter was, because, again, that was something that with Carter, that was just always going to take a little bit of time. Now, so when it comes to, Cam Holmes, is he a one and done? What's the deal with Cam Holmes? Yeah, I believe he is a one and done. I also don't look at him and say that that's going to be somebody that's going to be the first pick in the draft or anything like that. But I do think that he is. Do think he's going to be a one and done, and I think he's going to have a long. I think he's going to have a long career in the NBA just because of what he can do. And I think that's when you watch him. Like I said, guys like that thrive in the NBA. They thrive in the NBA, and that they can, that they can go around and they can make more plays. They can make life easier for other players, and that's exactly what he's going to be able to do. Is he going to be a star? No. Now, if you were to tell me that Carter Bryant, asking me, is Carter Bryant going to be a star? Probably not. But Carter Bryant is probably going to be somebody that's also going to take a little bit of time. But Cam Holmes, I don't see having that necessarily that kind of upside, but I do think that he's going to be somebody that eventually there's going to be a time when, you look at him and you're like, all right, man, that guy was just in the NBA for the last 12 years or whatever the case may be. That's, I think, what's kind of exciting about the possibility when it comes to Cam Holmes. Now, there's some other guys as well. I think when you look at Cam Williams is much the same in that you can tell that he is going to take a little bit of time. He might be more of a Carter Bryant type situation, but I also think too that he's going to be somebody that is, I think at this stage in the game, you also know that he is, I think you also kind of know that he is going to be, I think he's basically going to be something where it's like, all right, well, I think we're pretty much at the point now where, it's going to be a 10-8, 10-9-7 type player. That's, I think that's kind of what you're looking at when you're looking at Cam Williams. We're going to talk about Cam Williams more and where he stands. But Arizona, like I said, is in a very good spot for Cam Holmes. And if you get Cam Holmes, that is a real statement as well, that you are going to get guys from Phoenix. Not only are you going to get guys from Phoenix, you are the players that you want. You are going to get. And that's the way that it should be when you're at a school like the University of Arizona. You should be able to get the players that you want to get, and I think Arizona has shown exactly that. And I think Tommy Lloyd has shown that. It also really, really helps that you're kind of at the point now where Arizona knows that you're in a spot where you're not going to really have to leave the region much. That's kind of your breadbasket approach. You're not going to really have to leave the region, and you've got pretty much all the players that you need here at this point. So, watching that and seeing how that unfolds is also something that's going to make Tommy Lloyd's job a lot easier. Not only will it make his job a lot easier, that's just kind of the way it is. So what will that next step then be for Arizona? Let's talk a little bit about Southern California and what all of that means. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit about Southern California. That is going to be fascinating as well. Southern California is fascinating because that's going to be the other spot. Now you look at it, Kylan Boswell, Southern California. Carter Bryant, Southern California. Braden Burry, Southern California. Arizona is going to keep continuing to recruit Southern California. Duh. That's just going to be the way that it is. And again, you look at some of these guys coming up, I'll be stunned if Arizona doesn't pull 1 5-star out of Southern California. You look at the other guys like you look at a Kylan Boswell. You look at a Carter Bryant, a Braden Burries. No matter how they really panned out, these are all players that could have gone to almost anywhere in the country that they wanted. So that's something that's you obviously got to keep in. You obviously got to keep in mind. Now, the other thing as well is that when you look at Arizona, why wouldn't a kid want to go there? There is a power vacuum in LA right now, a massive power vacuum in LA because kids don't want to go play for Mick Cronin. And not only do kids not want to play for Mick Cronin, there's no reason to want to play for Mick Cronin. especially too when you've got Arizona that can play in a better basketball conference. And not only play in a better basketball conference, also, basically be in a spot where you're playing for a coach that's going to let you play. Tommy Lloyd is the Team USA coach, and that brings a lot to it when it comes to that. And he runs a fun style. And, more importantly, he's not a jerk. The problem with Mick Cronin is that he is a jerk. Nobody wants to play for a jerk. And that's, like I said, that's really kind of the way it is. Nobody wants to play for a jerk, and do you really blame them? I wouldn't want to play for him, especially, too, if you've got the possibility of playing for somebody else. I don't see why you wouldn't want to. I don't see why you wouldn't want to play for Tommy Lloyd. So again, you got to give him a lot of credit for that one. But Southern California, they've got a really good hookup right now. Obviously, being with Clutch is huge. That was a great move. And not only was being with Clutch a great move, it was also something, too, where you're saying to yourself, you're like, okay, this is going to pay dividends. Because this staff is not stupid. They know that it's important for Bryce James to have a good time while he is at the University of Arizona. And they've got a good connection. Jack Murphy has done a great job with the James family, as has Tommy Lloyd. They've all done a very, very good job. And I think you're going to continue to see that. Again, kids do not want to send their kids. Kids do not want to go and send their kids to play for Mick Cronin. So Tommy Lloyd is basically pulling the Sean Miller approach and say, hey, why don't you come over here? You don't want to play for Ben Howland. I totally get it. Just come here and play at the U of A. You'll be a nice one-stop shop, and then you can head off to your next year. And so looking at it, Christian Collins, Taj Ariza, I would imagine some other guys kind of come into that mix as well, but those are going to be the players that are going to be, and I think they're probably going to get one of them. And I think that's probably a good rule of thumb, to get one elite Southern California kid basically every year. You're not going to get six of them, but you want to get one elite kid basically every year. And there's no reason why you shouldn't, because again, UCLA is a total cluster with Mick Cronin. You watch what the deal is with Andy Enfield. Cool. He's going to let you roll the ball out there. I get all of that. But does anybody look at that and say that, that's sustainable, that's going to be fun? I don't really look at it and say that. Tommy Lloyd, I think, is the one that's got that solid baseline, that's got that solid point of view, and he's going to continue to play that. So wanted to talk a lot about Cam Holmes, though, on this show, obviously, and what Cam Holmes really means for the University of Arizona. Cam Holmes is a player that if Arizona can get him, it basically says, like I said, to anybody in Phoenix, hey, you're going to come to the U of A if we want you. That's obviously a big part of this. It also shows you, too, that you can get who you want. In Phoenix, listen, Phoenix is not going to be necessarily ever a Southern California or like a Chicago, but Phoenix is kind of right there in that secondary little breadbasket type area. That's like I said, that's kind of where it's at. Now there's going to be other guys that are going to follow. We're going to talk about Cam Williams. Cam Williams is going to be interesting as well. Cam Williams is going to be a guy that you watch him and can Arizona get him? Because he's probably going to be that next guy up. And if he's that next guy up, then I think that's another thing, because he's going to be a top 10 player. That's kind of where it's at. Now, we're going to talk about Cam Williams a lot, because Cam Williams is another guy that is incredibly fascinating in this entire process. You watch Cam Williams, and he's a lot like Carter in that entity, in that you watch him and you're like, man, this dude's best basketball is definitely in front of him. And he's bigger than Carter. That's the other thing, too. He's bigger than Carter. He's bigger than Carter, and he's got like a longer wingspan. He can shoot just as well. So we shall see. Can he be that guy? Can he be that power forward? I don't know. And I don't think that really anybody knows what he can be, but he's one that I think that Arizona is going to be able to get as well. And I think that Arizona has done a very, very nice job with him. And I think that's going to continue. I think Arizona is going to continue to run this. We'll talk about some guys like a Mason McGee, where Arizona stands with him, and a lot of different things like that. And we'll talk about some football as well. And we got to talk, obviously, baseball. Baseball is right around the corner. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A. And like I said, we're going to be talking more Cam Williams tomorrow and Locked On, your team every day. Talk to you tomorrow.